Listen, 3 people on this podcast are members of the Canadian Soccer Hall of Fame. Can you guess who they are? No, nor can I. I had to research to find out. But this week they inducted more people into the Hall of Fame. Woo. Dwayne Rosario and Robyn Gayle. I was sure that Dero was in there already, but he wasn't. So congratulations to both Dero and Robyn Gayle. Dero, 81 caps for his country, 22 goals, 4-time Canadian Player of the Year. Robyn Gayle, 81 caps as well. Coincidence? I think not. Olympic bronze medal, 3 World Cup appearances, in 3 World Cups. And of course, more recently, she's been crucial to John Herdman's staff, both for the women and the men, I think, actually, and now TFC. Okay, Jimmy, Craig, you were teammates with him a little bit. Certainly Jimmy more so than Craig. Tell us about Dero, the teammate.
He was great. He was a young lad when he came in, part of the Gold Cup setup. I don't think he played in the Gold Cup at all, but part of that, but fit right in. I would say that he was really one of the first players that in the Canadian setup with flair, that was a skillful flair player that was exciting to watch, would take people on. I wouldn't say he was a great goal scorer. He was a scorer of great goals. Amazing goals in MLS. And Frank Yallop took him in first into MLS. He knew what he was able to do. He would line up really well with Landon Donovan. Remember that at San Jose, Pat Onstad in goal. They built up a really, really great side, and he went on and to be really a legend in Major League Soccer in the early stages of the league, and goal of the year a few times. Big part of Houston's win as well. So yeah, he'd been around. He's a winner, and MLS suited him, really did, and he took it by the horns and really dominated that league for a few years.
Yeah, Dero he's a great guy. Great in the dressing room as well. I played club football with him, and then also international. And I think it took a while for people to really kind of realize that the type of player that Dero was. In a structured formation, I think he found it difficult that time because Dero needed to be that freedom player. He needed to be able to roam and go express himself when he played. And I think that's why with Major League Soccer, it worked so well for him. It really did, where he was able to go shine. He was able to drift along in that pitch on the pitch and find these little pockets to go play and get at players in the final third. And I think Frank was probably the one that really got him going and saw that potential in him, more or less said, listen, you go do what you want out there. And, Dero didn't. He made a name for himself in Major League Soccer. What was it, four championships, and scored a hell of a lot of goals. And, when he came back to Toronto, it was great having him playing for TFC. And when I retired as well, he took over the armband. And, he is a legend in Canadian soccer. He's a pioneer, and he's done an awful lot for this game and this country. So it's well deserved, and I think he'll continue to help grow this game in this country, which he has.
I am surprised he's not in already. I honestly thought he was as well. I mean, he's in the Canada Sports Hall of Fame, which he was put in a couple of years ago or last year.
Okay, so he's in that. Yeah, he is really one of the great all-time MLS players, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's got to be close to the Mount Rushmore of MLS players, what he did in that league championships, those goals, that goal he scored in the final. I mean, just a really good footballer. Do you think it was held against him that he never made it in Europe, though, on the grand scheme of things? He went over there, of course, and there's great chapters actually in the book that our boy B wrote about Dero, his biography, about the challenges he met in Germany in particular, some of the racism he felt as well, and obviously being Canadian, that he came back in the end. But do you think that is held against him in some quarters?
I don't think so. I mean, yeah, the level is obviously different, and the challenges are different, but I think Major League Soccer has been a great home for a lot of people that have spent their entire careers in Major League Soccer, and it's been a place where they've really thrived, and he has. And I think that, like I said, the level of MLS really, really suited Dero, really suited him. So he just always found his way back here.
Jimmy, as a teammate, did you enjoy the shake and bake?
Yeah.
No, it was shit. Let's be fair.
No, no.
It was unique.
But it was.
That's what you want, though.
Yeah,
exactly.
It was Hero's thing. It was his thing.
Yeah.
Look, you were just happy he was banging in goals for us. So
Mhm.
yeah, you score goals, you do whatever your little heart desires.
Yeah.
Were you guys around when he was workshopping it? Like before it was a shake and bake? Was it like a shimmy shake? And then it was like, okay, now this is where it's going. It's going to be a shake and bake.
Jimmy,
that's
what do you
he
think
said.
about this move? Jimmy,
Yeah, hey guys,
look
what do
at
you think about this? We would have been like,
What do you guys
nah.
think about this?
this.
No, he was great. D-Ro was great in the dressing room as well. He had a really good sense of humor. He was always up for a laugh.
Yeah.
Didn't take himself too seriously. And, there was times where we used to take the piss out of him and we hammer him, and he took it so well. So he was a great teammate. That's for sure.
And he's a vegan, just like you, Dubs.
The
Yeah.
second vegan to make
I
the
knew
Hall of
I
Fame, I
loved
believe.
him.
Right?
I was trying everything to put meat in his food, but
When you want a prick.
You're like
Like-
my sisters. My sister Sarah, when I said I was going to be a vegetarian when I was 15, I went to the bathroom and I came back and everyone's shoulders were shaking. And I was like, what is happening? And she'd snuck a piece of bacon into my sandwich.
And you loved it.
It was like
No.
our dinner, our first dinner together, Dubs, as a crew. And Jimmy reaches over to get a dish of some sort, and he just pulls it over, and it just drips meat juice all over the vegan entries. God, that made me laugh. You're like, Jimmy, what the fuck are you doing? That's just a little bit.
I thought that was Forrest with the shrimp curry.
Was it Forrest? Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was me.
I was happy to
okay.
throw Jimmy under the bus, but that was Forrest.
Yeah.
How can you think a shrimp's an animal?
Oh, God.
Not too many people know that much about Robyn Gayle, Dubs, but you do. You know her really well. Tell us about Robyn Gayle and why she's a wonderful candidate or nominee member. She's been nominated and she's been inductee. That's the one I'm looking for. Inductee to the Canadian Soccer Hall of Fame.
Well, I think it's important that players like Robyn get recognized and get inducted into the Hall of Fame because she's a defender. So defenders, perhaps goalkeepers, but I think even defenders fly under the radar unfairly. Like they do a really important job. They toil often in the shadows because they don't get the adulation. They don't get the goals, the awards, the recognition, perhaps, but such a crucial part of the team and the team's success. And Robyn, as a player was quick, had pace, had a great right boot on her, could strike from distance, but could provide a great switch of play from the fullback position. But more than her play on the pitch, because she was a tremendous player, she was just a tremendous teammate. She was just somebody that you wanted to hang out with. She was somebody who didn't mince words, would tell you the truth for good and bad, but was just always there for you. And so I'm not surprised in the least to see her be influential post-career. I mean, she's done it. I mean, probably more notoriety more recently because I think what she's doing with John's staff at TFC and actually Canada Soccer. I think Atiba had a couple of words for Dwayne, for D-Ro. Sounds weird to call him Dwayne. And but TFC, it was John Herdman in a meeting that announced it. And I don't know if you've seen it, but it's terrific because as he's announcing it, he's talking about Robyn. You don't see her on camera. And then he says, and now she's being recognized and she's going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And she gets up and she tries to leave the auditorium. Like she's highly, highly uncomfortable with attention on her. So I'm really pleased for her because it's so well deserved. And it's important, as I said, that these types of players get inducted and get recognized because they're just as important and they're key components of teams winning medals, as Robyn did, won a bronze medal. And crucial in team building and parts of that roster for a long, long time. And I wasn't the only one who mentioned what a tremendous teammate she is and was and continues to be as a member of staff.
I find it interesting that you said that she wouldn't mince words with players, teammates in the room, yet she's such a big part of the psychology of John Herdman's coaching style. I don't know exactly what she does there because she, like you said, she's so far behind the scenes. And so, happy to be there to kind of live in the shadows, so to speak. Do you think she's direct in that role within TFC, within the national setup when she was there as well?
I think that you have to be, and in a way you earn your stripes, but you earn respect from the players when there's no BS, there's no bullshit. You tell it how it is, and there's a way of doing it. And Robyn has this aspect kind of down to a T, really masterful, I think, in her delivery, where she's able to be direct and unflinching in delivering sort of hard truths and important information and being the messenger sometimes, but does it in a way where there's always the empathy. And that balance, I think, is something that you have to strike as a member of staff, and especially with this current generation, where I think that's lacking a little bit. That sometimes you just have to tell the truth, and sometimes it's, people try to go around it and you maybe don't get to the crux of the matter, but Robyn always does. But it's the way that she does it, that the blows somehow softened because there's such empathy and there's such warmth in her words, but also her persona. So it's very much about the words, how it's delivered, but it's the person also who's delivering it. And she has that down to a T, as I said.
Has she ever spoke to you like that? Was she that person who went, okay, Dubs, it's time to hang up the boots? So
No, never anything like that. But Robyn was somebody who was kind of always there, like hanging out, always had a smile on her face. But then all of a sudden, just when there was that pause after somebody said something and you thought you were hilarious, or you thought you were the big time Charlie or whatever it was, and you were riding high, and then she would just say something like one word or one sentence, one little phrase, and you just be brought back down to earth. And it was Robyn, so you couldn't say anything. Like, not that she was never wrong, but just the way that she kind of, her timing was always impeccable. So everybody always sat up and took notice, and she delivered those words, and she usually found a way to make it hit home.
She call you a dickhead?
Not usually. What the fuck, Forrest?
Were you called a dickhead, Craig? Did someone call you a dickhead?
Oh, a few times.
Who was Robyn Gayle on the men's side? Was there one in the room would have that word, that last word?
Doesn't sound like it.
no.
She sounds amazing.
She is.
Yeah. We had Jimmy.
Banter. Yeah, the men of banter, right? Just put yourself down even more. Do you see Richarlison was talking at the Brazil camp how his life was saved by a psychiatrist and how he struggled so badly on the pitch and off the pitch. And this time around, Brazil's finally now brought in a team psychiatrist, and it says it's so key, and he feels obligated to let people know, it's not a weakness. You should seek help if needed, which is great. But it just stunned me that Brazil, of all teams, are only now bringing in a team psychiatrist. Did you guys have a team psychiatrist when you played in Canada? All joking aside, Jimmy?
In England, we did. In a couple of the clubs, we would have individuals that would come in. And look, for me, I think it's very, very important because, it isn't for everybody. A lot of people don't like it, but if it can help 1, 2, 3, 5 players or majority of the team, then it's beneficial. So I know when I was playing, I think it was at Forrest, we used to have a psychiatrist come in, and he would sit down with a number of players, and it really, really helped them. I sat down with him a couple of times and had some good conversations, but there was a few players throughout the season that continued that relationship, and it helped them. It helped them mentally, big time. Because as footballers, there's a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of players that do get abused by fans or by the media. They go into this little shell. They're in a little bit of a rut where they're not playing. They're stuck in the reserves, can't get in the first team, and they've got nobody to talk to. And it was so important for the clubs that I was at to have these individuals come in and help certain players along the way.
I think they're good for everybody. I just think that you need to open up yourself, to open your mind up to the positives of it, and I think they're really helpful to everybody. I really think that everybody should talk to them.
Did you have one though at the national setup at that point? I think there are now, but when you guys played,
no, we didn't know the national team.
Get on with it.
Yeah, old school, right?
we
Suck
did,
it up.
but I think it's about and this is maybe going to go off on a tangent a bit, but after my career, I taught yoga and mobility, and you're either one-on-one or you're with a small group or you're teaching a large group. And oftentimes it's not because people don't like the practice. I think it feels good, but you have to figure out how you mesh with the instructor, with the person who's leading. And so to come back to team psychologists, psychiatrists, mental performance coaches, however you want to define it, first of all, it's important to remove that stigma. I just think that even if you're not having a difficult time going through hardships, that everybody should be open to it and should have a go, because it can be helpful even if you don't think you need it. But for the national team, the first time that we had a team psychiatrist, we had to fill out a form on the bus on the way to a World Cup game in '99. And one of the questions was, do you feel full of pep? And I felt like balling up that piece of paper and throwing it at the team psychiatrist or psychologist who was sitting at the front of the bus. Like, I don't want to be doing this as part of my, like, you're invading my own bubble and my own preparation. And I didn't like that, and I was resentful of it. So I didn't embrace that experience. But as soon as we had the right person in who was able to find a collective approach where it was destigmatized, everybody was welcome, it was inclusive. But then there was also, okay, with Forrest, we need to have this approach. With Jimmy, we need to take this approach. Then it was an individual approach. You got the buy-in that way, because then there was an understanding. And again, going back to that word, an empathy, and you began to understand the person's approach and why they were here and why they felt it was important. And then that was a cyclical thing. And then you got the buy-in from the players. And then the players start to value that as an aspect of their preparation and of their performance. So those were the more successful people that we had with the national team. And that's when you start to see the payoff. That's when you start to see culturally a little bit of a shift in the team, where that is prioritized as much as nutrition and sleep and your recovery. And it becomes like a pillar, and it's valued as a team. So that's where it's successful. And Sharms, to your initial point about Brazil, I am not surprised that they didn't have one, because it's kind of old school, right? Like, we're players, like we have the talent. Players or little kids play it on the street. It's just part of our culture. We don't need to add anything else in. And it's probably to their detriment, unfortunately.
I think, going back to what you're saying there, Dubs, with these individuals, and back then, them coming in and talking and even handing out that paper, is probably because they didn't really have too much experience in team sports as well.
Yep, for sure.
Right, because it was unheard of. And I think now, you'd find it'd be a completely different approach across the board, because these individuals have so much experience now, because it's welcomed now in professional sport. And it's expected.
They're sports psychologists,
Yes.
not just psychologists.
Yeah.
And I think you have to be embedded almost, don't you, with the team to understand the individuals. Because like I said, he can't, what works for Jimmy doesn't work for Craig.
Yeah.
And vice versa, right? So it's fascinating.